Hello and welcome to the Street Crime UK YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Today we look at an Ellesmere port drug gang that had trusted lieutenants, 5 safe houses and a number of cars to avoid detection from the police. The drug dealing enterprise gang often made trips to Wirral, Scotland and Greater Manchester to sell the stash of crack cocaine and heroin. A number of techniques were used by the gang to help them remain hidden from the law, which included 5 safe houses, encrypted phones and a regular change of cars. Ringleader of the gang, Mark Kavanagh of Foxdean in Ellesmere Port, moved to the town from Merseyside to launch his drug dealing enterprise. Mr. Kavanagh headed up the Kavanagh gang, which had 2 lines of operation, the Dell line in Laish and the Dark line in Ellesmere Port, and often made trips to Wirral, Scotland and Greater Manchester to secure his commodity. It is estimated that the gang was involved in the selling between 25 kilograms to 50 kilograms of Class A drugs. Mr. Kavanagh, 30, regularly changed his vehicle from the likes of a Mini Cooper to a Jaguar. Trusted lieutenants Carl Evans, Joshua Burns, Hakeem Stockton and Liam Roberts were granted access to the graft phones and cash and often got involved in street dealings. During the course of the 10-month investigation by Cheshire's Constabulary Serious and Organised Crime Unit, there were a total of 19 drugs purchases made by undercover officers working on the case. A total of 5 safe houses were used during the course of the lengthy operation, including addresses in Newham Drive, Plemston Court and Ellesmere Port. Officers also safeguarded a vulnerable man who had been targeted by the gang to deal crack cocaine and heroin. The hard work of officers paid off during the strike day on June 16, 2020, when 18 men were arrested and 20 addresses raided across Cheshire. One of those arrested was Mark Kavanagh. Mark pleaded guilty to conspiracy to supply Class A drugs and appeared at Chester Crown Court, where he was sentenced to 14 years and 6 months in prison. Mr. Kavanagh also pleaded guilty to a dangerous driving offence where he attempted to run an unmarked police car off the road in April of 2020. The gang, who supplied crack cocaine and heroin, with an estimated street value of £1.8 million in Ellesmere Port and Chester, have been jailed for a combined total of 55 years and 11 months. The following members were also sentenced. Joshua Burns, 24, of Flint Court, Ellesmere Port, was sentenced to 50 months for conspiracy to supply Class A heroin and crack cocaine. Carl Evans, 20, of Hillside Drive, Ellesmere Port, was sentenced to 66 months for conspiracy to supply Class A heroin and crack cocaine. Hakeem Stockton, 20, of Vale Road, Ellesmere Port, was sentenced to 62 months for conspiracy to supply heroin and crack cocaine and GBH. Liam Roberts, 23, of Wilmslow Drive, Ellesmere Port, was sentenced to 70 months for conspiracy to supply Class A heroin and cocaine and for breaching a suspended sentence. Curtis McHugh, 22, of Bailey Avenue, Ellesmere Port, was sentenced to 22 months for conspiracy to supply Class A heroin and cocaine. Anthony Carr, 32, of Wellstone Hay, Ellesmere Port, was sentenced to 22 months for conspiracy to supply Class A heroin and cocaine. Adam Arthur, 22, of Parklands, Ellesmere Port, was sentenced to 26 months for the supply of Class A drugs. Callum Watson, 23, of Sheepfield Close, Ellesmere Port, was sentenced to 22 months for conspiracy to supply Class A drugs. Daniel Riley, 19, Mancott Way, Mancott, was sentenced to 22 months for conspiracy to supply Class A drugs. Wayne Galland, 52, of Crispin House, Chester, was sentenced to 24 months for conspiracy to supply Class A and for the breach of a criminal behaviour order. Daniel Winning, 33, of Talbot Road, Dunham on the Hill, was sentenced to 25 months for conspiracy to supply Class A drugs. Sean Winning, 31, of Malvern Road, Blacon, was sentenced to 58 months for supply of Class A drugs. Mark Griffin, 40, of Ludlow Road, Blacon, was sentenced to 50 months for the supply of Class A drugs and possession of a Class C drug. Jake Cunner, of Sakehall Road, Blackon, was sentenced at Chester Crown Court to 7 years and 9 months for conspiracy to supply Class A drugs. Detective Chief Inspector Mike Evans from SOCU said, "After this lengthy investigation, it is really pleasing to see the sentences passed down reflect the serious harm that these individuals have caused in their community." Mr. Kavanagh saw an opportunity to take over a small market town and have a monopoly over drug dealing in Ellesmere Port. His dangerous actions caused misery for anyone who got in his way. This operation shows how, when acting on information from local communities, we can bring down gangs who believe they are above the law. David Keane, Police and Crime Commissioner for Cheshire, said, "The sentencing is fantastic news for the people of Ellesmere Port and Chester. The work has paid off for the officers involved in this case, who have worked extremely hard to bring another drug-dealing gang off our streets and make our communities safer. I commend the work of SOCU and hope that this acts as a deterrent to those who believe they can get away with illegal drug-dealing activity in Cheshire." So what are your thoughts about this Ellesmere Port drugs gang and how one man, Mark Kavanagh, led his Kavanagh gang to take control over the drug dealings in Ellesmere Port and Cheshire? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay safe.